Right, what's happening, people, and welcome back to the Joey Knight Boxing channel. Welcome back to my friend. It has been a long time, it feels like, at least, since we've done one of these. Brian, how's things, mate?
All good, brother. How are you, mate? Congrats on the win, of course.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm all good. Mate. Looking forward to getting my teeth sunk back in to a bit of boxing, or at least covering the boxing, not myself boxing for this moment in time. And a man that we are both huge fans of, Tyson Fury, is reportedly coming back to boxing. This has completely come out of the blue because I think that we all took it at face value when
Who
he
would have
said he
thunk
was
it, mate?
retired.
Never seen this coming. Imagine my shock. Yeah, Dick Turpin wore a mask.
What do you think about the comeback? Because obviously, I watched your video the other day. Really good video. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's up on the. Is it on the Pain Game or your
That's the one
channel? It's on the Pain Game. And you were talking about John Jones's comeback, Tyson Fury's comeback, and obviously the video itself. You speak about the comeback and the options and whatnot, but. Am I right to say that you think that it might not be the best idea for Tyson Fury to come back?
I think physically he's still got a lot to offer. I think in the Usyk fights he showed, although I thought Usyk was a level above and the better fighter, there's no shame in that. He's a generational great, and Fury probably is one of the top 5 heavyweights in the world still, and that was impressive because against Francis Ngannou we looked anything but that. So he did show, like, all right, I've sorted my act out now. And that's the thing with Fury. Mentally, he is so up and down. If he takes a fight seriously, you get a completely different outcome. But I think he took those fights as seriously as possible. And the thing that failed him a little bit was, he didn't quite have the power to really hurt Usyk enough to change the outcome. But also, my main point for anyone who hasn't heard it was mentally, he just wasn't willing to go to the depths of hell the way he was against Deontay Wilder. He didn't believe that if I push you to the absolute limit, you will break. In the way he believed it against Deontay Wilder. He had a lot of respect for Usyk in there, and he boxed very defensively. He had his hands up the whole time in a way that you never normally... I've never seen Fury box so carefully in my life. But more so, he just wasn't willing to risk everything in the way he did against Wilder. And when you're not willing to risk it all, it's a sign that you don't care as much as you used to care. And when you don't care as much as you used to care and you fight fighters who are willing to give everything, usually that's when you get knocked out at some point. Now, if he's just going to fight Anthony Joshua one more time for the first time and then fight Usyk one more time if he wins that fight, then fair enough. But if you're going to start fighting killers like a Daniel Dubois who's willing to risk everything, without a doubt, that could be a real problem, in my opinion, if you're not willing to go to the nth degree. What do you reckon, mate?
I think, personally, that it doesn't so much come down to the fact of the fighter that Fury's in with carrying himself like a killer, because that is what Deontay Wilder was first time round. That is what Daniel Dubois is at this moment in time. I think it more so comes down to the fear of fatigue when you're in there with an elite boxer. So let's say, for example, right, Tyson Fury was willing to go for broke in that second Deontay Wilder fight. He was willing to be tired and still have to exchange with what at the time was known as the hardest puncher in heavyweight boxing, right? He was willing to do that. My perception of why he was willing to do that is because Tyson Fury knows that when the chips are down and we're both tired, right, punch power isn't the most significant factor here. It's actually your skill set. It's actually your skill set. And I know from fights I've had myself, obviously a million times smaller scale than this, I know from fights I've had myself that you don't mind being tired with a puncher, but you don't want to be tired with someone who's got an elite skill set. Because when you're tired is when you make mistakes. That is when you will get picked off. And very clearly, like, obviously, Usyk never had Tyson Fury in the same sort of trouble in that rematch. But in the first fight, that didn't come from an absolute bomb that Usyk had thrown. That came from Tyson Fury making a mistake and then moments later making that same mistake, which was obviously stepping off to his right when really he wants to be coming away from that right hook, left hand that Usyk
That
threw.
was also just generally caused by the slowing of the feet, the gradual decline in the energy levels, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that there's certain fights that would still be appealing for Tyson Fury. I think obviously as a Tyson Fury fan, right? The same way you never you'd never want to not support your own football club. When you're a fan of a boxer, and you followed their whole career, I'm always going to want it to go on for selfish reasons because he's given me some great nights and I still think he's capable of doing more. But I'm really interested to know your thoughts on whether or not Tyson Fury could come back into the heavyweight mix in general rather than those two fights, because they are legacy fights. They are huge pay-per-views, huge earners in terms of Anthony Joshua and potentially a third fight with Alexander Usyk, right? I think that's the most likely option. But when you look down the rankings, could you see a world where Tyson Fury maybe gets in there with, let's say, for example, an Ajit Kabayel? We know he wouldn't fight Joseph Parker because they're friends and, kind of basically training out of the same camp with Andy Lee. Andy Lee does Tyson Fury's corner for fights as well. But do you think you could see him come in against an Ajit Kabayel, maybe some of the guys that are just sort of on the up?
I'd be shocked.
Mm.
Tyson Fury has never, ever shown an appetite to be a world champion who takes on all comers. That's never been who he is. He wants the biggest name for the most money. Legacy does not really seem to mean a lot to him because he can propaganda his way through the rest of it. It's like, if I beat Deontay Wilder, I can make out, because I beat that guy who has that very odd style, that I could beat any of you lot. And he just uses his mouth to win the rest of it. And a lot of people just believe that. He's never really cared about, knocking off every challenger. And, even when he won the belt off Klitschko, he didn't even give a shit about rematching him, really. He'd rather go on a session. So it would take a complete turn of personality. The one thing I am interested to see is, as he gets older, I do think there's a bit of an addiction to boxing in general. And, let's say he loses a fight. Maybe he lost the AJ fight. And then the Usyk fight was out of reach at that point because that just makes no sense. AJ would probably be the one to get the Usyk fight then, I think. If that did happen, and it's one punch away, right? It could easily happen. What does he do then? Because he is kind of addicted to boxing, in my opinion, and it really helps his mental health. And I do believe that to some degree. I think then he has to kind of go a little bit lower down. I just don't think a horrible matchup like Kabayel would be the one he'd go for. I think he'd probably go for a nice rebuilder rather than a Kabayel who is just a hard night for anyone.
Well, we speak about, and I'm not calling Caballero a tune-up fight, but if you actually look at Tyson Fury's resume, he's never gone into a big fight apart from that Alexander Usyk rematch. He's never gone into a big fight without at least one or two tune-ups, We're talking about this October date against Anthony Joshua, and context is key because Anthony Joshua's been out the ring for a long time. He'll be coming back from, it's reported to different degrees, but some sort of injury. It's
I think they said elbow surgery, something like that he had.
Yeah, but I did hear keyhole surgery, which I think means it's a more minor surgery.
It is, yeah.
Regardless, he's going to be coming back from some sort of injury. Anthony Joshua, we know, has been sparring. He's been doing a bit of Lawrence Okoli, so the injury can't be that bad. But if you look, for example, before he fought Deontay Wilder, he took a couple of tune-up fights. That was obviously him coming back from, the depths of depression and everything else and drug addiction. But he took a couple of tune-up fights there. Then he took a couple of tune-up fights before the rematch with Deontay Wilder. Then the trilogy was forced on him, so he wasn't able to take a tune-up fight, but he was still fit and, it was fine. Then he took a couple of tune-up fights before fighting Usyk. Obviously, he fought he took 3 tune-up fights before fighting Usyk. He fought Dillian White, Derek Chisora, and Francis Ngannou. Now, whether or not that Francis Ngannou fight played out in the way that Tyson Fury expected it to, it was very much a tune-up fight in terms of his mindset before the fight of how it would go.
He looked like shit in there. So,
and he didn't look great. So I don't believe that it's a foregone conclusion that Tyson Fury comes back and faces Anthony Joshua. I think there's a completely realistic world that we see Tyson Fury come back in a tune-up fight sooner than that October date, maybe for example, even August sort of time, because he looks like he's half ready to go now, let's be honest. We know he's been sparring. We know he's been training, right? If he can pick the right opponent, and obviously they can navigate it as someone who's in those sort of top 10 rankings. I mean, I look at the WBC at the moment. There's a couple of fighters in the top 10 of the WBC that you would imagine that he would be a big favourite against. You look at what the WBC are doing at the moment, you know, installing Manny Pacquiao as number 3 or 4 in the rankings or whatever. They've clearly got a bias towards former champions of himself, which Tyson Fury is. I think that he could take a tune-up fight with someone in that top 10 and put himself back into a position where people wouldn't be screaming from the rooftops in terms of it being unfair of him getting the crack at Usyk. But just quickly, I want to take 1 minute to tell you guys about new partner of the channel, NYLA Apparel. I was lucky enough to be sent some clothes by these lot around a month ago, and I've got to be honest with you, since receiving them, they have become my go-to for both t-shirts and now for tracksuits. Now, I would not vouch for something unless I truly believed in the product, and anyone that's seen me out and about around town will know that I am wearing the NYLA t-shirts all of the time. The first thing I noticed about them was how good the quality was, and then when speaking to the guys at NYLA, I found out that the money spent on material in comparison to what the actual t-shirts are sold for is probably about 10 times less than you would usually sell a t-shirt for that cost at. Basically, I'm of the opinion that they're spending about the same on materials as you do most t-shirts in flannels, but instead of paying 200 to 300 quid, you're paying about 10 times less than that. Instead, you're looking at £32 for the t-shirts, including free shipping, and just over £100 for the tracksuits. No shade thrown here, but the other day I had my eyes on a Nike tracksuit in JD Sports. I got it, I went to the checkout, and I was nearly at the point of having a heart attack when I found out that tracksuits, I always assumed, back in the day, growing up, were 100 quid. They're now costing over 200 quid, and these ones are exactly the same quality. So if you want a great fit at a great price for clothing that suits all occasions, hit the link in the description and browse the NYLA website. Thanks again to NYLA Apparel for their support with the channel. Let's get back into the video. As much as I'm a Fury fan and I want to see it, if we're being honest, right, if we're being completely honest, there's 2 fighters ahead of both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua that deserve that crack at Usyk. Am I right?
Dubois and Caballero, yeah.
Yeah, well, Dubois getting it. Parker and Caballero, I'd say.
Yeah, agreed.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see him take a tune-up fight.
Do you not think he's an opportunist, though, Fury? Like, if I'm Tyson Fury, and I know that I've fought so much more recently than Anthony Joshua, if memory serves correct. When was the AJ Dubois fight? Was it
AJ Dubois September, Tyson Fury Usyk December? Just before Christmas.
He's got a few months advantage there, and not just that. Fury did a lot of work in getting fit for both of those Usyk fights. So Fury usually needs tune-up fights because he's unfit and he's picked an easy fight, and like he did with Francis Ngannou. And he's out of shape, and he needs a fight just to get in shape to start off with. That's part of the issue, in my opinion. I don't think he needs that this time. He looks in great shape. He's had 2 really hard camps. He's had a nice rest. I think if I'm him, I look at what happened to Anthony Joshua, and I think if I have a tune-up fight, he'll probably have a tune-up fight, and it's going to delay it even longer. And do I want to be the first one to get in a ring with him after Dubois battered him like that? Probably, yeah. So I think although I get where you're coming from in that the pattern is definitely for Fury to have those tuna fights, he might look at AJ's circumstances and think, for this one, I might leave it.
I think it's encouraging from a fan of Tyson Fury, from someone who wants him to get back in the ring. It's encouraging what you said to me there about having that sort of addiction to boxing, because I think that once you're not feeling it, you're just not feeling it. And with Anthony Joshua, for example, we've seen him, in all honesty, Anthony Joshua has never come across to me, throughout his whole career following him, he's never come across as mentally strong as Tyson Fury. But in dealing with losses, I think my perception started to change a little bit because.
Because can I just jump in? Because
Go on.
AJ had a loss a lot earlier than Fury, so the data you had on AJ was you watched AJ go through different things, whereas Fury, he was just winning. Adversity found him in the ring a little bit, but not really in a mental sense where he had to recover from a loss. This is better. You've got better data now.
What do you think? Because the mind of a fighter is very, very unique, right? And you know it from like talking to me. And again, I'm a million times lower level than these guys, but you know it from talking to me. Sometimes I'm like talking to you, but I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking at you. I'm talking to me. I'm going. Oh no, I could have done this. I could have done that. Whatever. What do you think?
Every fighter does that, by the way. Even Loza, shout out Loza in the pain game. Fighters, they're living a movie in their own mind, all of them. Every single one of them. They watched Rocky Balboa, and that became their journey. Like, do you know what I mean? So you're right.
Yeah. What do you think about Fury's mindset? Because obviously, I compared it to Anthony Joshua's there, right? Anthony Joshua had a little bit of a meltdown after the Usyk second defeat, and that was more or less it. I think he took his loss to Andy Ruiz really well. Obviously, avenged it. I think he took the first loss to Usyk really well. The second one, he had a bit of a mental breakdown in the ring, but at the same time, he didn't have it saying he was robbed. He didn't have it saying it was unfair or anything like that. He still accepted the loss. He had his bit of a meltdown, but he accepted the loss, and that's fair play to him. We're all human beings, and I think boxers more so than probably 90% of human beings are very sensitive, very emotional, and when your adrenaline's running, I can completely understand.
Fury more than any of them, by the way. Fury more sensitive, more emotional.
But there's a key difference, isn't there? Because Fury hasn't. We don't know behind closed doors, right? Often people are saying something, and then off camera, I'll go to you, I don't really think that. I'm just saying that for the camera. Do you know what I mean? And Tyson Fury could be... Tyson Fury...
Joey just casually outed himself, yeah. It's a total bullshitter.
No, I'm on about in boxing.
I know, man, I know.
I'll
tell you what struck me. Just to piggyback off what you're saying. The Ring Awards. Everyone was wondering, will AJ show? Will Fury show? Will there be a bit of a moment there after they've both lost? AJ showed up looking like a don in his tux, shook hands with everyone, shook hands with Daniel Dubois, acted like the perfect gentleman, said he really wanted to have the Fury fight.
Face-offs with Bacoli.
AJ was like, I lost the fight, so what? And like... Yeah, could he have been acting? He could have been. I don't think he was. I just don't think he's that good of an actor. Like, I think AJ is proving as time goes on, he is actually about that life, as he said once upon a time to Dominic Brazil. And he is a fighter through and through. And he accepts, I am going to lose if I fight all the best guys. And he's cool with it. And I think that acceptance in the long term will do well for him in terms of what happens in the ring. Fury, on the other hand, if you look at the language he used, obviously about Alexander Usyk, at first he blamed the war, couldn't handle it for that reason. Then on the run-up to the rematch, he was saying, God will deliver you to me. And I think that Tyson really, was of the belief that he's chosen. Yeah. This is a chosen path that he has walked. And, fighters, especially when it comes to religion, they really benefit from it because it gives you a lack of fear and like an unwavering, I'm born for this. I'm not even doing this. This is God's will. Do you know what I mean? And when you lose and then you lose again, and the first one you said was a robbery, but then you lose again, that's really going to be fascinating to see how he truly deals with it when it comes to stepping back in the ring. Because the first one you can bullshit yourself on. He can't bullshit himself on the second one. And when you look at how defensive he was, he knew how good Usyk was. He knew that he was in there with the realist, of the division, in my opinion. So the next one isn't going to be Usyk, in my opinion. He has to fight someone else, and it probably will be AJ. But you do just wonder, like, will it have damaged his confidence when he thinks he's walking this chosen path? It's possible, but then I think that it's not. I think that it's Usyk that gives him this. You know how Usyk mentally fucked him a little bit on the run up, even in the first fight when Usyk was looking straight at him and he's just standing there. Like, I think Usyk offsets Tyson Fury in a way that nobody else can.
Yeah.
And I think that it's always going to be Usyk that's got his number. I don't think other fighters will be able to do that to him mentally.
It's really interesting to hear that. Yeah, I was going to ask the question of who you actually think is in a better mental mindset going in to this next fight, then, because
that's brilliant.
You'd always kind of think that it's Fury because he's got the gift of the gab. He feels very comfortable, press conferences and stuff like that, and he will feel like he is superior in his in intelligence, right, in being able to do that sort of thing, selling the show that Anthony Joshua is. But then at the same time, I feel like part of growing as a human being is accepting your shortcomings, accepting that things haven't gone your way at times. And I feel like Anthony Joshua is one, showing that he is more capable of doing that than Tyson Fury, and two, not only that, I look at Anthony Joshua, yeah, all right, he's going to have keyhole surgery. He may well have already had it. It was literally 2 weeks ago we see him sparring Lawrence Okoli, right? Lawrence Okoli's a problem. We don't know where Lawrence Okoli's going to land in this heavyweight landscape, but we know he's a problem, right?
Agreed.
And then you look at Tyson Fury, no doubt the other day when he posted that picture and he had a couple of big lumps in it, they were sparring partners of his, but I didn't fucking know any of them. Did you?
If you don't, no one does.
That's what I'm saying.
Know what I mean? You're the one who knows. You know every sparring partner that's in any photo of you, so that we're all fucked. Yeah, I do think you make a point about acceptance, and I think that's it's important for all boxers to, and it's hard because, you know, me and you talk about even you getting in the ring. Fighting's an emotional sport, and fighters, there's a reason why fighters want to get in the ring in the first place. They're tough guys, but they also want to show what they're made of. And, you know, it's so important to their identity, especially when you're a world champion. Like, your whole personality becomes having that belt and being the main man and all of that. Everyone's licking your arse, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you get chinned. And I think the fact that AJ's been through this before is going to help him a lot. He's actually rebuilded once before, came back, got his belt. All right, you may never do that against Daniel Dubois, but I think that acceptance that he has shown he's capable of is going to help him. And I think that, I don't know, the way he attacked the Ruiz rematch was good, and it showed evolution, it showed growth. I don't think that Tyson Fury showed evolution or growth that much in that Usyk rematch. But then again, you're in there with one of the best fighters we'll ever see, so it's hard to do that. I accept that. I personally, I don't give a mental edge to Tyson Fury on AJ. And I think that what's interesting is who knows where they're at physically. But for the majority of the careers, I've always lent towards Tyson Fury mentally. I've always thought he's a bit more mentally strong. AJ is mentally strong and underrated in that department, but just not quite there the way Fury has this unwavering belief. That unwavering belief, in my opinion, won't be the same now. And I do think that AJ and him are on a par now. They've both taken defeats. AJ's taken it better. And I think that and Fury's going to remember how Daniel Dubois hurt AJ in sparring. That was a factor to some degree. And AJ still signed up for it, so fair fucking play to him. But it did matter. In my opinion, to some degree, it helped Daniel Dubois when he got in there, showed no fucking fear. And they sparred, and Tyson Fury himself, in his own words, said, the guy fucked me up, and you're going to have to watch. He was on the radio going, you better watch out for this kid. Yeah. Anthony Joshua, he's going to be something special. And he was right, and that will help AJ a little bit as well.
I think that spar was around 2012.
A long time ago, yeah.
It was a long, long time ago. I think AJ might have still been an amateur at the time.
Dubois spar was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Tyson Fury himself, though, I remember when he was like fat, out of shape, completely overweight, still at Peter Fury's gym, and he got Daniel Dubois down for sparring him, but Dubois must have only been about 16, 17, something like that. So it's really interesting to see. you said that you always used to give a mental edge to Tyson Fury that you don't give to him. Just on the fight, do you give an edge to Tyson Fury? Do you see it as a 50-50? Do you give an edge to Tyson Fury? Or do you think that it could be AJ's time?
The Francis Ngannou fight and the Deontay Wilder fights make me give Anthony Joshua a really good chance. I'm not saying I'm leaning towards him, but I think a lot of people are going to favour Tyson Fury, and I am going to make it at least a 50-50 because I think Tyson Fury against a powerful, tall, long-armed fighter, historically, he doesn't find it easy. He's been on his arse a lot against those guys, right? Now, does Deontay Wilder box as well as Anthony Joshua? No. Does Francis Ngannou? Fuck no. So I definitely give Anthony Joshua a solid chance against Tyson Fury of at least dropping him once in that fight. So yeah, I think for people to just look at the Daniel Dubois fight and go, oh, AJ can't beat, Fury because Dubois beat him. It's like Daniel Dubois stylistically is a really hard fight for a guy like AJ, right? Like, it was always going to come down to who got on the front foot first. Dubois took center, and he never let AJ back into it, almost until the end where AJ did come back into it. So he's still a threat, even when we've now seen him really, really fucking hurt. He was still a threat. So can Tyson Fury, does Tyson Fury have the power, the speed of a Daniel Dubois? No, he doesn't, in my opinion. He's got other things. He's very, big, and he's got the IQ. But I 100% think that people are, from what I'm hearing anyway, underestimating AJ because of the Dubois defeat, and that he has every chance of beating Tyson Fury.
I think that Tyson Fury does have the speed of a Daniel Dubois. I think he's just as quick as Daniel Dubois, if not slightly quicker. What I don't think he has is the volume of a Daniel Dubois.
And the power.
Do you think
he's got the power?
Probably not, but I also don't think that that's necessarily the biggest factor in the fight in terms of, from a Tyson Fury standpoint, of how he could win. Obviously, Tyson Fury, I don't think we're ever going to see him down to the sort of weight that he boxed Vladimir Klitschko out. I think that was 264, something like that. I don't think we'll ever, it might have been less. I don't think we're ever going to see him back down at that weight. I think that the Peter Fury / early Ben Davison version of Tyson Fury is the one that, from a stylistic standpoint, stands the best chance against Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, in my opinion... That's not coming
back, though, is it?
It's not coming back. It's not coming back. And Anthony Joshua, in my opinion, doesn't really hold a candle to Usyk when it comes to the skill set. But there's one thing I can say, and again, like, it hurts me to say it as a Fury fan. When Usyk had Tyson Fury doing the old DVD player across the ring, if that's AJ, he stops you.
If that's AJ, it doesn't go 20 punches around the ring. It goes two. Yeah. A stiff 1-2 down the pipe or something like that, and you're fucked. Yeah.
But I'll counter it with this. Who do we know? And this can't be disputed. It's a small win. I have to take him where I can get him now as a Fury fan. Who do we know has the best powers of recovery in the heavyweight division?
It's Tyson Fury. Yeah,
Tyson Fury.
Doubt.
When Anthony Joshua has gone for the kill in a couple of his biggest fights, I'm talking Andy Ruiz 1, I'm talking Daniel Dubois, when he's gone for the kill, he is vulnerable. And that's going to happen, right? It's always going to happen. If you meet fire with fire, you are going to be vulnerable at times. So if you meet fire with fire against a man like Tyson Fury, I could very much see a scenario unfolding where, let's say, for example, round 12 against Deontay Wilder drops Tyson Fury, he goes in for the kill, he gets caught and he gets hurt, Deontay Wilder, in round 12. And it wasn't as apparent what had happened there until... God knows how many months, if not a year or so later, when they had the rematch, when you realised, Fury worked out how to beat him in that moment, because he had never really seen him hurt like that. Deontay Wilder had never been down to the floor, had never been dropped, anything like that. When he hurt him in that 12th, he realised, right, that's what I've got to do. I've got to meet fire with fire. I think that maybe Fury might come in the shape that I don't see best for Tyson Fury to this Anthony Joshua fight, which is probably big and heavy, more around the high 280s, something like that. And I think he might try and meet fire with fire in that fight.
I hope you're right. I hope he does, because
I'll back Fury to win it if he does, but
Yeah.
I think it becomes more of a 50-50, whereas at some points during their careers, it could have been a 70-30 in Fury's favour, in my opinion.
It's difficult because the form and who Tyson Fury was fighting, it gives us limited data, but again, like I say, stylistically, I think he does struggle with these kind of guys, and I think that AJ is a better fighter than the ones he's struggled with. So I think he's really in a fucking fight, and I think the one thing that people don't give Anthony Joshua the credit for is he's got a fucking chin, actually. Proved against Daniel Dubois. He took some massive shots. I'll tell you what, they're as bad as anything Fury's ever been hit with, and Fury's been given fucking loads of credit for his chin and his recovery. And don't get me wrong, did AJ recover his shape? It took him a while. You know, it took him a good few rounds, and I think he went for the kill too early. But he showed his chin, and I think that Dubois hits harder and hit AJ harder than Fury is capable of. And I think that gives me... And I think Fury is a good boxer, but he's also, his defense, you know, although it was good against Usyk in the second fight, sometimes he does leave his chin wide open. I think a fire fight is what AJ needs to turn it into. Like, you don't want to let Fury, you know, go on the back foot and jab his way around you. You need to put it on him and just pick your moment, really. I wonder how Ben Davison affects this fight. What do you reckon about that?
I don't know, because I feel like had it have not been for Alexander Usyk, then a lot of Tyson Fury's vulnerabilities would still be somewhat secret. But I think that if you fight an Usyk, if you fight a Lomachenko, other highly skilled fighters like that, they're gonna showcase all of your vulnerabilities.
Your blueprint.
Now, most people and most boxers aren't good enough to be able to replicate what they can do consistently. But there's definitely areas that you can replicate. There's definitely a few bits and pieces in there. I mean, even in the Deontay Wilder trilogy fight, he, for the first time, showed that it can be effective to back Tyson Fury up with a jab to the body. That third fight, Deontay Wilder started off really well in that third fight. He was jabbing to the body.
Does that pretty well.
Yeah. Exactly. Anthony Joshua.
I'm excited. I hope they make this fight, mate. I really do, because as much as for some people are saying, oh, it should have happened years ago. Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to fucking love this fight.
Mate, do you know that, like, if it's Mayweather against Pacquiao, yes, I like that argument. I can't say that I massively disagree with it. Should have happened years ago, whatever. But at the end of the day, right, we don't go, oh, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis happened way too late. Some people might, but on the whole, you go, I'm glad that fight happened. Joe Calzaghe, Roy Jones Jr., both well past their prime. You don't say that. You go, oh, no, it's a good fight. I'm glad that happened. Watch that fight back. It's a good fight. Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn is one of the best fights that I have ever sat down and watched. You were lucky enough to be there live watching that fight. Was that the best of even men? What? Conor Benn coming back after 16 months out of the ring. Chris Eubank Jr. dehydrated and having to weigh in again on the day of the fight. That weren't even man at their best, but you got a fucking epic fight. And that's what people need to understand here is this, regardless, is going to be a good fight. And actually, it's nothing like a Mayweather-Pacquiao in terms of those guys had like 50 fights each or something like that, or coming up to that by the time they fought each other. These heavyweights, right? Tyson Fury might be 36, 37 or whatever. Anthony Joshua not far off. Trust me, these heavyweights, when they do take the damage, they're taking a lot more. But there's a reason why you see people like Vladimir Klitschko competing up until the age of 41 years old, even looking to come back now. Yeah. There's a reason why you see these guys fighting later on, because their body can absorb more. They can stay fresher for longer. So
that's what I keep telling myself.
There you go. There you go. Always time. So to use the Mayweather-Pacquiao comparison,
I'm going to make a comeback at any point. Just let me know.
I don't know. I think it's going to be a good one. I can't wait for it. Obviously, we've got Dubois against Usyk coming up. We'll definitely be doing loads of coverage around that on the Pain Game. We might even be there. We might even be there. Let's see. Let's keep our fingers crossed, because that'll be another epic one. So I'll link the Pain Game in the description to this, you've got all Brian's content coming out off there, as most of you already know anyway. But we will be covering, obviously, all things Usyk, Dubois, stuff like that. I'm sure we'll do a few video calls in the meantime. So make sure you're subscribed to that. Brian, thank you very much for your time today, mate. I really appreciate
Been lovely,
it.
brother. Loved
And
it. Loved
I
it.
will see you all in the next one.